welcome to this episode of the Route 77 podcast. Today's discussion will center around Valentine's Day and how, as single individuals, we can learn to celebrate and embrace the day by focusing on God's love and expressing it to others. Welcome to Route 77. Our podcast for today will be on Valentine's Day. That's singles' most favorite holiday, right?
Indeed.
My name is Natasha. I'll be your host today. I am here with Monique.
Hello.
And David.
Hello.
Valentine's Day, it should be today, the day that we launch our ministry podcast. We decided for Valentine's Day, it seemed right because we felt like this would be the day that singles might be looking for some help or some support, some encouragement, and then hopefully can find our podcast. What is your experience with Valentine's Day?
I found with Valentine's Day, even if you're single or you're with a person, this day can be quite a day of anxiety because one of the things that you are expecting is that if you're in a relationship, you're expecting the person that you are quote unquote in love with or in light with to treat you special on this day. And a lot of guys forget that this day exists, or they just get you something and your expectations are too high. And I think that's a lot of because of the commercialization. And for a single person going into stores and seeing the massive amounts of balloons and flowers and candies and everything is in hearts and stuff like that. And it's supposed to be all about the love and there's more love and you're a single person and you're like, where's the love? But there is no love. Yeah. I walked into the grocery store the other day and the first thing I was bombarded with was a massive display, rows of flowers, huge heart-shaped balloons and teddy bears and chocolates and candies. And I'm just like, I had to take a picture of that because it was wild.
And prices.
And the prices, the amount of money that you spend. Some people go all out and they buy the fancy jewelry and the diamonds and stuff. One of my coworkers, he said, if I only show my wife how much I love her on one day of the year, I am failing as a husband.
But do you think that might be a bit of a cop-out of that you forgot Valentine's Day? So that's...
That might be. It might be. But I do get that because he's very supportive of his wife and they do a lot of things together. So I think they have a pretty good they seem to have a pretty good relationship. I do get that because my cousins have said the same thing about Mother's and Father's Day. I love my mother every day. Why should I only show her one day?
Yes, it's an appreciation. Just to stop and appreciate.
Yeah.
What about you, David? What's your experience with Valentine's Day?
I don't really do anything. It's just like a normal day for me. I don't really have any experience with it at all, honestly. Just a normal day.
Do you remember I don't know if you guys did this in your elementary school, but you used to get these books and they had all these Valentines in there and you had to write your classmate's name on them and hand them out and everybody had little packages and they all
you put them in there like a little mailbox, like a little like box or bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's cute. Will you be my Valentine? Some of them were cute, some of them.
But they're just from everybody to everybody.
It's not a...
Yeah. I remember doing that as a kid in middle school.
That's probably the healthiest Valentine's ever. Like not candy wise, but I just mean everybody got cards from everybody. And there was no feeling left out, and there was no, I'm not, you're really already at that age. It was just the day you got all these cards, and I think they've amped it up a little bit. So now it includes like sometimes little toys or gifts or candies or something with it. I've seen them in the stores for the kids to have at school, but I'm sure more parents want more things in the house.
Yeah.
But yeah, my only experience, my mom was a very big gift giver. Her love language is definitely gift giving is up there in the top one or two. And so my mom would always get us little gift baskets that she'd make up for every holiday pretty much. So Valentine's Day was always just another day that she would give us like a little gift basket of something. And I mean, she always loved to do that. And then when I was married, my ex would usually get me flowers or something on that day. But I think it was more to show off to other people that he was getting it than it was to actually give it to me for me. So I don't have a lot of positive feelings or memories of receiving gifts from a significant other. Before I was married, I remember when I was in university that there was this guy that I was interested in. We were thinking about dating, and we never really did, but it was right around Valentine's Day and he did get me a box of chocolates. It's a small one. And so that was nice. But I remember being surprised, going, this is what it's like to have a person who cares for you on Valentine's Day. It's like the first time it ever happened. And I know that there's sometimes for singles, there can be this sort of Valentine's Day resolution syndrome where this time next year, I'm going to have a significant other so that I have found someone to spend Valentine's Day with. And while it's not a wrong thing to celebrate Valentine's if you want to, I think that's not really the greatest reason to try to find somebody.
So you have somebody to get gifts on Valentine's
Or
Day?
that you're not alone. You feel like you're part of it.
Oh,
Because if you're not part of a relationship, then you can't really be a part of Valentine's Day is how it feels. So there's this sort of, this time next year, I'm going to be in a relationship and we can set this deadline. And then the next year comes around and it hasn't happened. And then we get all depressed, sort of like New Year's resolutions, except almost worse.
I had a boyfriend once who gave me a bouquet of red roses. And he was quite generous. He worked for TELUS, so he made money. He was one of the technicians. And he would buy me gifts and all those kind of things. But now that we're not together, we broke up, and much things happened after that. None of those things were significant anymore. They meant nothing. It was just like, yeah, I got some stuff. Big deal.
Because the relationship didn't
That
last. And so then,
so there was no significance to it. No, it didn't mean that much. And now it's just like everything. Everything's just become so commercialized. It's a way for other companies to make a huge amount of money for something that was,
you get something small that would be significant.
yeah.
And now it becomes bigger and better. And every year you have to expect it to go bigger than you were the year before.
Yeah.
So
Try to be.
I guess this is the lesson. Give one chocolate the first Valentine's Day and then you can go up from there.
Another thing too is that it seems like Valentine's Day has been drifted into more a material kind of day where you give gifts and stuff. When I feel like it should be pushed more towards having the day off and spending time with your significant other over chocolates or bouquets of roses and stuff, that it should be a day where you would sit down and just spend time together instead of gifts. And I feel like Valentine's Day drifted into this idea that we have to spend all this money in order to get what we can get through simple contact and relationship.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. Like Monique mentioned, every holiday out there now has become so commercialized and it starts, we're barely January 1st and we finished New Year's and Christmas is just finished, New Year's just finished, Valentine's is in the store by January 2nd. And so it's becoming not even Valentine's Day, it's Valentine's season.
Oh, yeah. And then once Valentine's Day is over, then you're going to start seeing, even before Tuesday, which is Valentine's Day for us, even before that, you're going to start seeing Easter stuff. And I'm already seeing those Easter egg, those bags.
Yeah,
of
the
Easter
dollar
eggs.
store already has their Easter stuff up.
All the Easter stuff is already out. Valentine's Day hasn't even hit yet.
Yeah, we're so far ahead. And it's just constantly about what are you going to spend your money on next?
Yeah.
And so that's just the idea of what's out there.
Don't be surprised if you start seeing Christmas in July.
It's just, day has lost, I think, a lot of what it really means. And originally, if you look back in the histories of Saint Valentine, there's several Valentines that it could be in the Catholic history. There's 2, possibly 3 that it may refer to. And when you look at it, it's actually based on Valentine's love of people. He was said to have healed the blindness of his jailer's daughter, and that he cared for her not in a romantic way, but in a way of one person to another. And another legend, we don't know how much of it is truth, is that Valentine fought for marriage and in a place where the king had banished marriage because he felt like that would divide his soldiers' loyalties. Now, there's no proof that this actually happened, but that idea is out there that he was fighting for the institution of marriage. So I think you can say that Valentine's Day is a day that should be about the love of one person for another as a human person, not the eros love, but the agape,
Brotherly,
or yeah,
godly.
the brotherly love and the agape, the all-consuming love, like God has. And it doesn't mean that you can't celebrate Valentine's Day with a significant other as something to celebrate your romantic love. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it becomes so enwrapped to the point where others get left out, where they feel so left out that it's a source of depression or things like that. And it's a difficult line to follow because you can't not celebrate something because it might hurt somebody else's feelings. Should people not celebrate their anniversary because somebody's single and might be upset because they aren't married? No, I think that's foolishness. But Valentine's Day can be a day that you celebrate your love for another person that's not the significant other, not in that way, not romantic love. So if you're a single person, you can think, who are the important people in my life? Who do I appreciate?
Go to the mall. I love you. I love you.
And just with a bouquet of roses, just handing them out to random single. So
That would
never
be fun,
know.
actually.
Yeah.
But no, that's actually not a bad idea because in a lot of instances, especially if you're a single person, you have got a circle of friends who are your support, who mean the world to you, who you grow up with, who you spend a lot of time with. And that could be a good way to appreciate them too by going out, having dinner together or something.
Spending time with people that you care about and that you can enjoy being with, and just as a time to appreciate what they bring into your life. And I think that can be a very good and very healthy, uplifting thing to do.
I think the idea that Valentine's Day, I feel like it should be focused on those who maybe are single or like expressing love to one another, serving one another. Because right now I feel like it's so focused on people who are together, who are in love. And I feel like that is expressed through material items, which again I mentioned earlier. And I feel like we should move away from a lot of that material items and spend time with one another and have direct a bit more focus on those who maybe are not in relationships, who are not single, and being able to express love and kindness and servitude to them. The legend of Valentine's Day normally stems from Saint Valentine, which apparently, through legend, was executed for supplying soldiers secret marriages because they weren't allowed. And I feel like those soldiers were not able to find love, and sometimes they should be expressed to help people find love, in a manner of speaking.
So that could also be a way of expressing your love for other people is by doing acts of service, like working in one of the soup kitchens.
This is where something like those love languages
Yes.
comes in, because you could find how whatever way you show love to people, it might be gift giving, it might be quality time, it might be acts of service, or what are the other two? There is touch and words of affirmation. Those are the 5 love languages. And just for physical touch, go give somebody a hug if they're okay with that. Or if you're a gift giver, you can buy something little. You don't have to go bankrupt. You can, sometimes a little one flower or something can go a long way. Enjoy your little, like we said, take a bouquet and hand them out to people like one at a time.
Yep.
If that's where you want. It's just ideas.
Yep.
Because we can take Valentine's Day and celebrate love
Without having to worry about not being in a romantic love relationship.
Yes. Because love should be celebrated.
Yep.
All the types that God has designed. And God is a God of love. So by celebrating one of his attributes, we're celebrating God.
He says, love others as you love yourself. So if you would do good and kind things to yourself, why not do good and kind things to other people as well?
Exactly. One of the things you can do at first is to just gain perspective. Just step back. If you're feeling angry or depressed or anxious or something negative towards the day itself, because you are single or you were in a relationship and you've broken up, or you have never been in a relationship and you want one, and
Your relationships that you have had are
bad, have been not healthy, then step back, look at what love is in your life. And we have God who loves us. God so loved the world that he gave his only son.
the greatest expression of love.
Yes. So we have to take that first step and just gain some perspective, step back from the feelings at the moment and realize what blessings are actually in your life. God sent his son. He went through his love. God sent his son. Jesus was crucified, died, was buried, rose again because of love, so that everyone would have the opportunity for heaven. And that is one of the greatest things to celebrate. And it does get celebrated again in a few weeks with Easter. But just start there and then work your way down. Not everybody has a significant other, but most people have family or friends in their circle who mean a lot to them. And there's that brotherly love or familial love where you appreciate these people. So perspective is what goes a long way in dealing with a lot of issues of the heart. Sometimes dealing with the issues of the heart is difficult, but it's important to really examine one's own heart to see if there's any sin going on. And sometimes the sin around Valentine's Day is of coveting or discontent. And God wants us to be content in all things. And that's one of the things we really strive to put forward with our ministry, is that being single is something that you can be content in and thrive in. And so if you're so discontent with your life that Valentine's Day has become a negative, like you can't see beyond it, you just have all these feelings and all these negative feelings, then you have to look inside yourself and say, hey, what's going on right here? What's going on in my heart? Am I being discontent in the life that God has given me? And that is a place to look at and to ask forgiveness if there's a discontent. And if we look at the 10 Commandments, it says, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. So you can't be much more on the nose than that. So don't covet your neighbor's wife. Don't covet your neighbor's husband. It doesn't necessarily have to be the specific person, but the fact that you're coveting another person's relationship is a sin, because
Of just being envious. So I don't know about other people, but I know when I was newly single, it seemed like everybody around me was in relationships and there weren't that very many single people. And I felt very left out. But I think that comes down to some other things too, just that you feel like you don't have enough love in your life, that I have nobody to love, nobody with me, there's no companionship. And it's really hard to know when people say, you've got God. Yeah, but God doesn't sit on the couch beside me and talk back.
can't give me a hug in real life.
Yeah.
Physical.
Yeah. And so that can sometimes that can be very discouraging because you're facing loneliness. And what I know for myself is what I did is I hermited myself. I had so many friends who said, you never phone, you never come over. I don't know what's happening with you anymore because you just go to work, you go home. You go to work, you
I'm
go
off the
home.
face of the planet.
And you pretty much fall off the face of the planet. And this is where a lot of those feelings of loneliness come from, is because you isolate yourself. And, check to see if you were doing that too. Because if you're isolating yourself, then you are letting yourself down from
And you're putting yourself in a place that can lead to these sins as well.
yeah.
Because you put yourself into a place where you're,
There's
oh,
no
woe is me,
watching me.
right? Or woe is me. And then you start go down that road instead of being around people.
And you
who can
start
help you
finding
clear that.
other ways of trying those internet dating sites and meetup groups, or maybe you just start to, I'm just going to have a glass of wine just for myself tonight. And that's happened like for 3 nights in a row, 3 weeks in a row. Next thing you know, it's a battle night. It's amazing what can happen when you have only yourself to be accountable to.
Which will be one of our other pillars coming up. Accountability.
Accountability.
Yes. I think a good portion too is that we have to ask ourselves, why are we isolating ourselves to begin with?
Yeah.
I think we may be so afraid of being rejected to the point where we're afraid when we interact with society or other people that they actually are in a relationship, and then you're afraid that they're going to start questioning, why aren't you in a relationship? And that builds a big, it's just stressful, I guess. It would end up becoming very stressful in that you feel like you can't interact with someone without them mentioning relationships and stuff, and just that
My
whole,
grandfather used to greet me every time I saw him was, "Do you have a boyfriend yet?" Although it started when I was like 10. It was always a thing. It was always a joke, but I always wondered when there would be a day I could say, yes, I do.
Yeah.
But go on, David. Sorry.
yeah, no, exactly. Continuing on what I was saying, every time when you go out and people are in a relationship and they're talking, and just it's just hard to find the courage to go out and talk to people who seem to feel like that in order for you to be able to connect with them, that you have to also be in a relationship.
Yeah. Too, that a lot of single people know pretty much only married people. So then you get into these group festivities with all these married people and you're the single person and they're all bemoaning their marriage or they're talking about their kids and they're all going on about their babies. And you're just like, when is that ever going to happen for me? So I would encourage single people to not just find themselves in groups with the married people, but find other single friends that you can connect to. Maybe a singles ministry. Yes, we will be having in-group sessions eventually as well. But the thing with some singles ministries, and I would actually challenge a lot of these single ministry leaders to reevaluate what their ministry is really about. Because a lot of them are, we're going to put a singles ministry together so people can find their other person. But I've been to some of these single ministry groups and it made me feel lonelier.
I think a lot of people get together and then they realize they don't really want to date the other people there. And then it falls apart.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you get, well, maybe it's the reason why you came to the single ministries because you were intent to find somebody. But maybe if you labeled your singles ministry as, we want to encourage the singles to grow in their relationship with God, rather than, hey, let's find you a marriage partner.
Exactly. And again, there's nothing wrong with that,
No,
but that's not to be the focus
no,
of one's life. And
No.
so by reevaluating a singles ministry's purpose, mission.
Did you ever have any of those happily married people say, maybe what you need to do is just list all the good qualities you want in a husband and pray about it? And God will bring that person to your.
Yeah, or you need to be less picky.
Oh, yeah, that one.
You don't have to be attracted to them. That can come later.
Oh, how are you with your husband or wife when you
I
met
know.
them?
It was just, yeah. Or don't worry, I didn't get married till I was 40, or I didn't have my first kid till I was 43. You still got time. And
I didn't get married until I was 78. Oh, great. I got a lot of time.
so there's just, those aren't helpful. Those are definitely not, those are opposite of helpful.
So when you're a single person during Valentine's Day and they're saying, yeah, I was 78 when I first got married, you're only 25. It's not helpful. You need to find better ways of being happy.
And part of that is understanding that singleness is a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's a thing in which you can thrive, flourish, be joyful, content.
And Valentine's Day can be a happy day too. It doesn't have to be a miserable, sad, depressing day with everybody being a couple. And I know I was a lonely single person all by myself. And you can have fun. You can do fun things. You can go meet up with your best friend and go and see that movie you've been wanting to see forever. Get a couple of friends together and go out for a nice dinner. Yeah,
Actually, all the restaurants are probably full. Go on the 15th.
And cook something.
For the next day.
Have a barbecue or
Something at home.
Unless it's cold outside.
have a party.
If you're in Ontario, it's probably a blizzard, right, Natasha?
Probably.
You can always have a party or two.
You could.
And also, I think if you can readjust your own mindset, then you can actually celebrate, not maybe going out with them, but you can actually celebrate with your married friends or family members in a sense that you're happy for them. Just like you can be happy at an anniversary or a birthday party for the person that is celebrating. You can be happy that the people are in a relationship where they can celebrate that part of it, the romantic side of it. But that comes from within. So if you haven't dealt with the heart issue, feeling about singleness, then you will only feel negative and negative things towards the married people celebrating. And that sort of happened to me when I got married. I had eloped. And so I never really got to do all the wedding stuff that people got to do. And so I had a really hard time even driving by a wedding shop where the dresses are and everything. And I'm not even a dress person, but that was part of the thing was to you get your dress and whatever. I never got to do that. So I had a very hard time even looking at a bridal shop. But that was because I had the wrong internal attitude about my singleness, about marriage. And I was being
And expectations.
and expectations, but I was being discontent and I was being jealous of the people who got to experience that. And that was on me. Because the people who got to go and do that's completely right and good thing for them to do. And it's not fair that I should have negative feelings about people who are just going about their normal life. What happens when you're engaged and you're going to get married.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Yeah, I was like bridesmaid once and I caught the bouquet, but that didn't work about the next year. It was the goalkeeping instincts that couldn't let it go by.
I've got the bouquet. No, where's the band?
On order. Yeah, order.
Not too funny.
Yeah. So by actually embracing your singleness, you can bring yourself to a place where however you decide to celebrate or not celebrate Valentine's Day, you can be happy for those who are. And
Yeah.
that's really important.
There's many forms of love that you can express to one another. The idea that Valentine's Day can only focus on one of them is misunderstood.
And apparently, early on, Valentine's Day was considered a celebration of love, not necessarily romantic love. And it wasn't until Chaucer wrote a piece that included Saint Valentine that was about a romantic relationship. So that was actually much later than the Saint Valentine's holiday starting. It wasn't until that point that it was starting to be equated with romantic love. It's interesting how that wasn't the original point of Valentine's Day, and yet it's what it's become. It's just interesting to see how things change over time and then it gets commercialized.
You had sent me an article once about single and Valentine's Day. What is Single Awareness Day? I've never heard of that.
I think it's just one of those love your pet day or things. I don't think it's an actual day. But it's
Come on,
it's
Single Awareness Day. Love yourself.
supposed to be February the 15th. It's supposed to be Singles Awareness Day.
So what's
I
the
think
next day? Was that one you said we go put it on the next day? That's Singles Awareness Day.
And it's just interesting because it's like we have to do something for the single people.
Because
We're single people have to eat all the chocolate that's on sale the next day because they're so sad.
So there's one good thing.
Yeah, wait till the 15th and you'll get a better deal too.
Yeah,
But-
all those really good ones will be half price.
But-
Right now they're fortunate.
But speaking of singles awareness, it is something that we are striving to do with our ministry and within our ministry in our church is to actually have a single celebration. So once a year, we celebrate the singles in our church community and the fact that they are loved and are accepted and they're worthwhile. And we want to celebrate the fact that they're part of the church and they are part of the body of Christ, or the acceptance part of
Yeah. We're not the fringe.
No, we're not the outside fringe, not the outcasts. We're actually integral part. And sometimes what happens with church is that there's always celebrations of anniversaries and marriages and engagements and birthdays if you get really old, but there's rarely anything that a single person would fit into. And so we also want to encourage that perhaps churches can think outside the box and think about things that can be announced and as celebratory that aren't only for married people.
Once we start getting once this takes off, we get a group going. We can maybe work on having that one day where we can celebrate the singles. They all come, we all have a banquet, dress up if you want or not. Come wearing what you want to wear, as special as you want to make yourself be, and be celebrated for who you are.
Just that you are part of the church, that you're remembered.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things for singles is that they are known. They're remembered. They're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I find what Valentine's Day does is it really completely ignores the single people.
Because all of the movies, all of the gifts, all of the advertisements, everything is utterly geared towards couples. You're just bombarded with it.
Yep. No.
So that you feel abnormal.
Yep. And we're not, because technically there's probably a lot more single in the world than there are married couples. If they say that there are 5 girls to each guy, then there are 4 single women out there that are still looking for a girl. Don't fight over it, because you ain't gonna have it. He can only take on one.
Well, over in China, there's literally millions of men that will not find a wife there.
Yeah.
Because they have millions of more men than women. So when you start making these decisions, like by this time next year, I'm going to be in a relationship, then you're setting yourself up for something. You're setting a focus that is not a God focus. Nowhere in the Bible does God say you have to run the race and strive to finish so you get married. No, that's not the race he's talking about.
Yeah.
You got to run the race of life, the Christian life, chasing after God, chasing after heaven, and put that into your fullest. And that can include marriage, but it is definitely not the goal.
And if you think about it, in heaven, there is no marriage. There is no couples. You're not going to be going there to find your other half, because they're not going to be.
God is your other half.
God is your other half.
He always is.
Yeah. And marriage here is only a foretaste of what it's supposed to be like in heaven.
Yeah.
You know, that
it's a representation of Christ and the church.
There you go.
And once we reach heaven, there's no longer a need for representation, because we're actually living
in that,
in the truth of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So all this striving to find that other soulmate, or what they call,
change that relationship status on Facebook or wherever.
Yep. From single to in a relationship to engaged to married
to it's complicated to it's single.
Complicated to it's single.
For some people.
Some of us, yeah. But we have that to look forward to, that it'll be so much different. And this life is so fleeting. It goes by so quickly. I'm already looking at how old I am. And I'm going, what happened to all my life back then? My 20s, my 30s, where did that all go?
Like he's the kids at Taekwondo who aren't worried too much about getting their black belt right away. I say you're looking forward off in the distance to the future. You have so much to look at. And I feel like I'm trying to rush, get my belts when I can, because I'm looking back at my life.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to look back on their life and see a life they wish they hadn't done, because they've wasted precious time that they had as a single person wishing that they were in a married relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Because once you're in a married relationship, all those dreams that you want to accomplish, you probably will not be able to, because
things change.
Things change. Your focus changes. Now your focus is on your married life and what comes into your married life.
You got to make sure you're not going in circles. If you anchor yourself in the wrong thing, you'll just go in circles. And time doesn't stand still. It just keeps going.
Nope.
just what you guys said earlier about marriage not being within heaven and stuff, it would then imply that marriage is more of a materialized thing that isn't bad. It's there for us so that we can prepare for the kingdom of heaven. But it's not something that is taken to the kingdom of heaven. The love that we share with one another, the service we do with one another is all taken. It's not the idea of marriage, it's the love that manifests from it.
Exactly. Which is what we want to bring back to the Valentine's Day being a celebration of love,
And not just between couples.
it's not just romantic love.
No.
I think people misunderstand what Valentine's Day separates. I feel like it's you're celebrating commitment to one another over to love with one another.
First, focus on God. Celebrate the love that He has given, and then celebrate the love that you have for others. Romantic love, if it's there, but otherwise, familial love, brotherly love, all of these things that are part of your life, love. And also, in a sense, love of oneself, accepting of oneself, seeing yourself as God sees you and not as a half of a person. You are a whole, complete, 100% person made by God.
Yep.
And
Yep, not a half looking for the other half.
yeah, you're not walking around as a half a person. You are 100% person. That's the miracle of marriage. It's 100% person plus 100% person equals 100%.
Yeah.
It's the two become one. Not that their two halves become one.
No. Can you imagine we were all walking around half people? My God, no.
Just the left half and
Just
looking for the right half.
I'm looking for the right half.
Trying to fit this puzzle piece.
Is that why
Does
they
it
call
fit?
it? Is that why they call it Mr. or Mrs. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe.
But then they're all right.
Oh yeah.
But there might be your right and my
If
the
my
left.
right is your right, wouldn't that be your left?
Yeah, then it's the left.
Who's on first?
Or David's not even following this
I
conversation.
have no idea.
No.
But it's that kind of confusing thought processes that can drive you into that kind of spiral down that says that I'm just not worth it. I'm not good enough. And that is so not true. And I know because I ran with that for so many years after my husband died. I'm just not worth anybody loving because I'm still alone after how many years?
It's funny how we somehow we say that is the mark of success. That
I know.
that's our benchmark.
Yeah. After he died, the first thought I had, now that I'm not a wife, what am I? I'm a child of God. Hello. I've always been a child of God before I was a wife and after I'm still.
That's why I heard one time on Focus on the Family, I can't remember who said it or why, but he said, "Who are you?" And then he said, "Here's a hint. If you can lose it, that's not who you are." And that really helps you to pull back those onion layers of who you are. Like, I am my job. I can lose my job. I am a parent. Your children could pass away before you. And then what are you? I am a spouse. But then they pass away or you get divorced or something. And then what are you? There's just so many things that you can identify yourself as.
Yeah. But even as a parent, yes, your child could die, but even if your child doesn't die, eventually that child's going to grow up and leave.
And that
You may still be
relationship
that.
changes.
Yes, you may still be that child's parent, but you're no longer defined as that. I have a bunch of Korean friends, and in Korea, you don't say the parent's name. You call them by the child. It's your saying you're Natasha's mom or Natasha's dad. So you're the defining person in their lives, which is, to me, I thought that was strange. Because you have your own name, parents. So now that they are here in Canada, it was something for them that they struggled with to realize that I am going to call you by your name. It's interesting how we define ourselves, defining ourselves by anything other than child of the living God.
And that's the thing you
Because
cannot
that's the
lose.
one thing. Yeah, you can't lose that.
Once you're adopted, there's no going back.
If he writes you in the palm of his hand, I think it's like in their permanent ink, doesn't wash off.
It's tattooed right on there. It's not going anywhere.
Tattooed, not going anywhere. Yeah.
The simple truth is that everything on earth is simply materialized into something that we can lose other than the relationships we have with one another. You have to look at everything that you can take to heaven. What exactly can you take to heaven? You can't take money, you can't take material items. You can only take your friends, your relationships and service to one another, the love that you have for each other. So again, I'm circling back to the idea that you could lose your child is actually not necessarily correct, because as long as you keep a strong relationship with that child, even if that child dies or passes away before the parent, that child, it's a child. So as Jesus said, children will inherit the kingdom of heaven. So that child would then be within heaven. And as long as your heart belongs to Christ, you will never lose that child.
I have this question. I always had that when you die and you go to heaven, what are you taking with you? Nothing. Just me, because I can't take Natasha's shirt and drag her with me to heaven because she's probably not set to go at the same time as me.
We're not that would be something horrific happened to our house, probably.
or to our car. Or to car. Yeah. So I wanted to ask what you meant, David, when you said we take our friends with us when we go to heaven. How is it like? Explain that to me.
So the idea is that you gotta look at yourself. You gotta think, what is the one thing that we will end up taking to heaven? It can't be anything other than the relationships or the love that we share with one another. Because people, you gotta look at what Christ did. Christ came and he died for our sins. He saved people. He didn't save the earth. He didn't save money. He saved us.
Your friends have to believe as well, though.
Yes, yes,
Because
yes.
if they don't believe as you do, if they reject your faith, then you can't take them with you.
So even in that scenario, it's not like your friend says, I don't believe in God. So what does that mean? So the idea is that if you have money, you shouldn't focus on it. You shouldn't devote yourself to it. Would you say the same thing if your friend wasn't a believer? Would you not devote yourself to your friend or to someone you love? If they say, oh, I don't believe, you would share. You would show them the love of Christ and then let Christ work within them. And in that meaning, you take the love that you both share and trust in the Lord so that both of you are saved.
Uh-huh.
But the thing is that regardless, if it's not so much that you take it to heaven, it's much that is the only thing that will end up persisting between our preparation for heaven and our entry to heaven.
Well,
The relationship we have with one another is the only thing that can both at the same time be in heaven, right? So
I get that. See,
Okay.
now I understand. Because at first I was going, wait, what? Yeah. So thanks for clarifying that, because I know that if that statement confused me, then chances are it may have also confused any
Yes.
of the listeners. So
Yeah.
thank you for clarifying that with us.
Yes. This also goes back to the first two commandments. Love your Lord with all your heart and all your mind.
Yeah.
So you would love the Lord, and then you would love one another as if you would love yourself and the Lord. And those two commandments is what defines of what we'll possess in heaven. Is we won't possess anything but each other. And the idea that we would maybe not see a friend in heaven because they don't believe should bring forth an urge to share the gospel and share Christ's sacrifice with them so that we have some kind of memory or possession that we can take to heaven. And I think that is the absolute idea of Christ's sacrifice, is that he sacrificed himself so that we can be with one another in heaven with him.
Yeah, because we certainly don't want to leave our family and friends behind if we can help it.
Exactly. So all we can do is share the word and gospel and then have faith in Christ that Christ will show them the way.
Yeah. No.
And yet another way to show love on Valentine's Day.
Yep. The ultimate love.
Yeah.
You must hear me.
Witness.
How can I convince you that the love of Jesus Christ is so immensely beautiful?
Simple. It's really simple.
Yep.
All he wants is our hearts. And then once he has our hearts, he wants us to give our hearts to others, serve others.
Love others.
That's it. That's absolutely it.
I was literally killed for you. How much? Yeah. He said, how many people would lay down their life for a friend
Or for a good
or
person.
for a good person? But he laid his life down for people who were not good people, who were not his friends. And still, that was his grace and his mercy
His love.
and his love. Yeah.
He showed his love for us while we were still sinners.
Yeah.
He died for us.
Yeah. Yeah. They say the kindness of God is what compels us. There's so many people, they don't believe that God is a loving God. Yes, he is a God of justice, which is appropriate, but he is also a God of love and a God of mercy.
The justice comes from love.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what we should be celebrating on Valentine's Day, is that love that Christ has for us. Not commitment to material things or one another, but what he did and what he showed the world, his service and his ministry, that love that he expressed to all. I feel like that is what Valentine's Day should be celebrating.
Yes. Yeah, that's good, David. That's really good.
I think that's where we should leave off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. That's a good place. Now, we hope that you will also send your questions to us. You can email us at route77ministries@gmail.com. You can also message us on Facebook and on Instagram. Yeah, we welcome your comments because we're new at this and we're just starting out and we want to improve and we want to be relevant and we want to be interesting. Yeah.
Let us know what you like, what you didn't like, what topics you want to hear about. We'll just keep going, but we'll listen to people's input.
Yep.
Yep.
And do please be kind.
Love one another.
Yes.
Love us in criticism. If you have it, that's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely.
This is us signing off. Will you all have a wonderful Valentine's Day and enjoy the love of God and the love of the people in your life.
Yeah. Love one
Yes.
another. That is the greatest
Love
commandment.
God, love others.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for listening, and we hope to see you or come back for the next podcast.
Yep.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Route 77 podcast. To keep up with our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Join us next week as we delve into our next pillar, which is active. Until then, remember to embrace and enjoy your single life to the fullest.